Everybody, tickle the front board.
Never, just
Watch what I do. Because whatever I do will probably work.
You said no, so
Look up here. Gentlemen. Michael. Focus. If I'm doing line A, I would write 5 minus 3, 4 minus 0. I would get 2 over 4. What does that reduce to? 1/2. So the top one, I'm getting a 1/2. If I do the bottom one, negative 4 minus 0, negative 5 minus negative 3, that is equal to negative 4 over negative 2. What's a negative divided by a negative? This is equal to 2 over 1. So this was line A, this was line B. See if you made a mistake, see what your numbers look like. Make sure that you're labeling like I'm labeling, x1, y1, x2, y2. Some people are putting 2 x's and 2 y's. It's xy, xy. Are these opposite signs or the same sign? One's positive, the other one's positive. Just because it has 2 negatives doesn't make it negative. Negative divided by negative is a positive, which means that this is neither, because these are not opposite reciprocals. They're reciprocals, but they don't have opposite signs. These are both positive. They're not equal, so they're not parallel. This is a neither situation. How many people at least got the negative 4 over negative 2? Make sure you reduce that and make it positive. That means that they're both positive, which means that we have neither in this case. I'll start the second one. 5 minus 2. Negative 3 minus a negative 5. That gives me a 3 over a positive 2. So that's a positive fraction, positive slope. For B, I'm getting 0 minus 2, 1 minus a negative 2. That's negative 2 over 3. Well, that's not a negative over a negative. That's just a negative over a positive. That's negative. What does that look like to you? Perpendicular. That's exactly what you need to see for a perpendicular situation. Have a picture in your mind of what's going on. This is positive. Is that uphill or downhill? Uphill or downhill if you're looking at a graph? Uphill. How about a negative slope? So it probably looks something like that if you actually graphed it. I'm going to pass out graph paper to everybody during the test. If you want to actually plot those points and take a look at where they are on the graph to get an idea of what's going on, go ahead and do that. You can do whatever you want on the SOL. But I'm going to need to see this for the test. You can check yourself using the graph, but make sure that I see the formulas so I know that you understand how to use the formula. And that'll tell me whether or not you understand how to add and subtract negative numbers. Neither, perpendicular. How about 23? We got 2 minus 4. 1 minus negative 3. That is a negative 2 over a 4. What does that reduce to? Negative 1/2. Then I've got 1 minus 2, 8 minus 6. That is a negative 1 over 2. So I'm getting a negative 1/2 followed by another negative 1/2. Are they exactly the same? Yep. Parallel situation. Which way is negative? Uphill or downhill? So we're thinking about a situation with 2 parallel lines on a graph that are going downhill from left to right. Good news. The last question, you don't have to do any work because they're giving you the information in an equation. You have to pick the slope out of it. So we're not going to do any subtraction. We're just going to pick the numbers out of the equation. What's the slope in the first equation? A negative 3. How do I write that as a fraction? Put it over 1. We want to deal with fractions when we're dealing with slopes. What's the slope of the second one? 1 over 3. I didn't have to do any work. It was right there in front of me. Do I care about the 5s? No, that's the y-intercepts. What do you see? What kind of pattern, and what is it? Are they opposites? Are they reciprocals? There are no surprises on this test. This section is going to look exactly like this. 5 questions. I'll change around the numbers a little bit, but same process, same procedure. So this one we had 2 negatives. We had negative 1/2 and negative 1/2. This one was negative 3 over 1 and 1/3, which were opposite reciprocals. Up here, opposite reciprocals. They're flipped versions. One's positive, one's negative. Over here we had 1/2 and 2 over 1. They're reciprocals, but they're not opposite reciprocals. And they're not equal, so they must be neither. Last one was taken off of an SOL test that the state of Virginia gave us. So you're guaranteed to see something that looks like this. Do you remember doing using tools on your algebra test where you had to place points onto a graph? If the points were blue, like this, that's not an answer. It's not an answer until you have a point that shows up that's red. And you do that by using the actual cursor tool on the test. We'll learn the tools again, probably in April. We'll go to the lab over in 2112, and we'll take a look at all the individual tools. If you've taken an SOL test in this county, you know what the tools look like. We just have to apply them to geometric situations. You can do the slope of this. Did anybody do the slope of those two and get an answer? What'd you get? I got negative 3 over 1. Let's take a look. Negative 2 minus 4, negative 2 minus a negative 4. That's negative 6 over 2, and that reduces to negative 3 over 1. So we know we need something that's going downhill. I didn't need to do that. I can do the slope formula, but couldn't I also just count squares and do rise over run? If I want to do the slope of this, I would go down 3 and then over 1. Down 3 over 1. Well, that's the same as saying negative 3 over 1. Rise, I go down 3. Run, I move to the right 1. How you do it is up to you when you get this type of problem on the SOL. You can do your rise over run, you can do that. I recommend doing both. You have unlimited time. Why not do a check? Okay, thank you. Apply the same thing to point P. Go down 3 over 1. That's why I put the red dot right there. What are the coordinates of that dot?
2, negative 1.
2, negative 1. That's your answer. Don't worry about this term. Integral coordinates. What does that word look similar to? Integer. An integer is what you're looking at here. It just means you're not looking at decimals and you're not looking at fractions. Well, I didn't want to look at decimals and fractions to begin with, so this is actually helpful. If it wasn't there, then maybe this point might be 2.5 or 2.6. So integral just means that you're going to have whole numbers and their opposites.
And also be sure over 5.
Or we need a point. So what are you saying the point is?
0, 5.
0, 5. Let's see. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be up there. Let's just reverse it. We go over 1, up 3. Is 0, 5 also an answer? Yes. On the SOL test, there's going to be many different points that could be the correct answer. On the algebra test, did you have a tool that made a line? Well, you're going to have one for this test. Why not put a line on here and actually look at it visually and see if it makes sense as a parallel line? Because that's what's being asked for. Right here, they're saying make sure it's parallel. How you do this is up to you. Rise over run, or you can do just a straight slope formula. Just make sure that when you do the actual SOL test, that this point, whatever it might be, is in red. Blue is for you. Red is ready. Your class made that up last year. Put that away.